This video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I raised my vibrational set point, I transcended my past, and how I became emotionally free. By the end of this video, you're going to know how you can do the same for you. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how I raised my vibrational set point, how I transcended the past experiences that I've had, and how I've been able to then become emotionally free. Now the reason I'm making this video is because I think that so many people can experience the same thing that I went through in the sense of how I transcended a negative past and exist in a totally new state now. Now when I say this, I'm not saying I'm enlightened or anything, but what I am saying is that it's definitely a higher level of consciousness to where I was before. Now just to give you a little bit of a basis for it, before I felt like the world was happening to me. I remember that this was back in about 2012. I was feeling so much resistance. I felt like I didn't understand why my life was the way it was, because back in my childhood, from the ages of 7 to 15 years old, I had an abusive stepmom in my life. I wasn't allowed to eat very much. I wasn't allowed to do the normal things that kids did. Me and my brother were mainly outside working all day. We were not allowed to watch TV. We were not allowed to eat very much food. We had to earn going to school. If we got in trouble, we'd get school taken away from us. It's a very unique situation to be in. And that caused a lot of resistance, because if 15 came around, my dad divorced her, all of a sudden we have all this freedom. But at the same time, for some reason, I resented, like, why did all of that happen? And for years, I felt that resentment, and I carried it around with me, even though it was subconsciously. So what happened was I felt that resistance for about 5 or 6 years, not knowing exactly what to do with it, and always just trying to almost just be positive. I would have these negative thoughts, and I would just try to focus on the positive thoughts. But a lot of times, I'd end up resisting those negative thoughts that would come up. And eventually that led me to when I went through an experience that shifted my consciousness. And all this was me learning that my beliefs create my reality, and learning how to observe the different beliefs that I had that made up the reality that I lived in. And I believed I was a victim. I believed that these things happened to me. I believed that I had ADHD and couldn't focus. I believed that I had all of these different labels that were kind of thrown on me. And because of that, it therefore created that experience over and over and over again. Now, I had this experience in 2012 when I felt, on a scale of 1 to 10, I use this scale sometimes, I used to feel like I was at about a 3 to a 5 out of 10. 10 feeling amazing, 1 feeling not so great. Now, what happened was I learned how to observe my thoughts. I learned how to not try to control them. I then got to this space of spaciousness. That's the best way I can describe it. And in that space, what ended up happening is it changed my whole life, because within a week or two, I started to feel a majority of the time that I was at about a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I felt really good a majority of the time. I didn't need to drink. I didn't need to do anything that would change my state. I just naturally felt good. And from that point going forward, my whole entire life changed, because I started to see myself in a completely new way. When you become aware of the beliefs you have, when you become aware of the things that are triggering you to feel a certain way, you start to take your power back, because then you realize that you don't have to give away your power to something else. You realize that the true thing, that the really only thing that matters is not what happens, but it's the way you respond to what happens. So in general, many people are walking around at the reaction to everything that is happening to them. And that's when we're letting the autopilot mind run itself out. Now, the autopilot mind for me was, why did I go through all these experiences when I was 7 to 15 years old? Why didn't I have a normal childhood? Why was everything controlled and all of these different things? Why did I have to earn going to school? How come I wasn't allowed to eat the kind of food that I wanted to eat growing up? Or not even eating the food I wanted to eat. I wasn't even really allowed to eat. I was given 1 bowl of cereal in the morning and TV dinner at night, and it wasn't very much food. So me and my brother, when we were locked out of the house during the day, were doing work while no one else was home. Outside, we would sometimes try to break in to eat the food. Why did all of that happen, right? Why did we have to do that? But what I realized was that even after 15 years old, I have all this freedom, it's amazing, I'm allowed to have friends, I'm allowed to do all this cool stuff, and I'm wondering, why did this all happen and I'm feeling that way? Well, that remained on autopilot for many years. And I was always in reaction to everything that's happening. And 90% of people, when you look around, or more, are in reaction just to everything that's happening. They aren't aware of how they are relating to what's happening. And because there isn't that awareness there, it's just everything's on autopilot. And part of the time that we are on right now on this planet, it's about waking up. It's about transformation. It's about knowing that we don't have to be at the effect of everything that's happening. And one of the best things we could do is start to simply put our focus in the direction of what we want to experience. And maybe part of this is just becoming aware of what has happened in the past. Now, if you were to look at your past and at a certain level be able to see that you chose it, it changes everything. Now that might seem ridiculous. How could you tell me that you chose to have an abusive stepmom? How could you tell me that you chose all that? Well, here's the thing. There are different levels of awareness that when we begin to get to, we can see that there was actually something in it that may have shaped into the way we are now. And here's the thing. When we treat it as if we chose it, we let go of resistance. We let go of the victim mentality. We let go of the identification with it. So what I did is I was able, this is back in 2012, I was able to look at that and to see how it shaped me into who I became, because that pain from the past eventually led me to creating the pressure to having a spiritual awakening. And many people that do have a spiritual awakening have been through some type of painful past like that. So this is something that happens to a lot of people. Now we could say, well, maybe part of that we agree to at a certain level. Now maybe consciously we wouldn't be like, I would never agree to experience that kind of abuse or whatever it is. Because some people have also been through way worse stuff than me. So by me sharing my story, I'm not saying that I have had it worse than anyone else. I'm just saying that a lot of people think that I'm this happy person and I'm a positive person because I was entitled growing up or something. When it was really, there was so much restriction in my life that life in general is amazing because it wasn't what it was in that way. So in a similar way, what you can begin to understand is at a certain level, you may have chosen your experiences because those experiences led you to becoming more, to transcending the negative emotion, to realize that you are so much more than you priorly imagined. And if you treat it as if you chose it, you then begin to transform it. So that is one of the keys. Treat it as if you chose it, and then you will transform it. Because then the resistance goes away. The key to this process of letting go of all of that is completing the past. This is going to seem paradoxical to a lot of people especially people that watch my channel, because I share a lot of information with the law of attraction. So you may hear that and go, well, if I'm going to complete the past by feeling the past of whatever happened, wouldn't I create more of it using the law of attraction? And the answer to that is not really. Because what you end up doing is you end up allowing the flow of energy to go through your body, and then you can release it. You see, what happened is we have an energy field around our body, and the moment something happened in our past that we thought it shouldn't have been there, there was this little disruption in our energy field. And this little disruption will stay in our energy field until we become aware of it and move it out, and we allow it to be there, and we feel it. Because many times what happens is we stop feeling whatever we were supposed to feel in the moment, or whatever's coming up in the moment when we were younger. We say, this shouldn't be there. And by saying that, we suppress it. And then what we do is we subconsciously carry that around everywhere we go. And as we carry that around, we continue to experience things in our life that are equal to that experience. So for example, I've shared this once or twice before, but with my ex-stepmom, she was manipulative, she was, all those different things I shared earlier. I was like, why did this happen? I had this kind of thing in my energy field of resisting what happened and resisting the emotions I felt at the time. So what happened was years later, I got a job at Nordstrom's working in women's shoes, and I had a manager that was the exact same way. Now this manager, of course, couldn't physically do anything, but mentally, she did the same exact thing. She would talk down to people. She's manipulative, she was controlling, power tripping, all of these same things. And she was protected by upper management at that job at Nordstrom's in women's shoes. She was protected by upper management, so everyone would go to HR because of the things that she would say, but HR would protect her. So for 4 years, she was my manager, and I'm dealing with like the same type of person as my ex-stepmom, pretty much the same person in a different body. And I was like, once again, it was because there was this pattern in my energy field that resonated with it. So I was attracted to being in that department, which is very synchronous in itself because there's some things that happened that made me in this department. This department was actually a good department. It was salon shoes, which is designer shoes, which is the most expensive department in the whole store. And it was a commission-based job. So it was the best department to be in. But it's very ironic that, or not even ironic, but it was just very peculiar that that kind of thing happened. Now, here's the thing. When I eventually learned how to complete my past, when I allowed the emotions to be there, when I realized and I reframed my whole entire past of that whole experience with my ex-stepmom, I learned how to observe my thoughts. I learned how to complete it by allowing it to be there, by coming at peace with the past. You have to complete the past to not repeat the past. Within 2 weeks of doing that, this manager got fired. Finally, after 4 or 5 years, she got fired. And part of it was because I completed my past. Now, that might seem like a bold statement. Bro, you're saying that you are the reason that that happened? Well, all I know is that beliefs create reality, and that when we let go of negative emotions that no longer serve because we've let go of the belief that's attached to it, or we've let go of the disruption in our energy field, then the people on the outer reflection that no longer resonate just seem to drift away. So it seems very synchronous that she would leave my experience the week or two after I complete the process of the negative emotion. I became aware of why it was in my life that way, how that kind of in a way formulated to me, being I have this such strong desire to help break people out of the prison of their mind, how to break people out of the painful past that they've had. And I would not have had that if it weren't for some of the things that I went through when I was younger. So I've in a way reframed it and seen it as something that maybe I did choose at a certain level. Now, that transformed my whole life. And from that point on, I've never had to deal with someone like that again because I've completed the past. If you want to learn how to complete the past, I've made one of the most powerful meditations I've ever made for completing the past, or just in general. And it will help you to feel the emotions, get the beliefs that are in the way, and then to feel it and to let it go forever. This meditation is something that will help you to unroot things that don't serve. This is a meditation that goes very deep, and I will link it in the top of the description box below. It's a YouTube video. About 14 minutes in or something like that is when the meditation starts of that video. And if you read the comments of that video, you will see what I mean by how powerful it is. Because when you get to the root, that's when you really begin to change from the inside out. That's what transformation is all about. And you can do the same thing by understanding that your natural set point, that who you really are, is unconditional love and bliss. That is who you naturally are. And when you begin to tap into that and realize that that is who you are, you can let go of all the things that no longer serve. There'll be different layers that we're attached to based on our beliefs, based on our reference experiences that we've had. And the more we resist the past, the more we keep those alive. And the more that we keep our vibration bogged down. The key is to let go and to observe those different perspectives, to observe the past experiences, to observe all of it, because then we transcend our vibration. But understand that your natural vibration is that of love, of bliss. That's who you naturally are. Now, lastly, I want to share with you one way that you can go about taking your power back in a very empowering way. And that has to do with literally treating everything in your life as if you chose it. Treat everything in your life as if you chose it and say yes to the present moment. This is a transformation in of itself. Because when you treat everything as if you chose it, you start to take your power back. Most people, over 90% of the people on the planet, are in reaction to everything that's happening. They aren't choosing anything. Everything is happening to them. The key to this process is treating everything as if you chose it, because rather than being at the cause, or rather it being at the effect, you then are at the cause. So the key is going from effect, being at the effect of everything that's happening. This is happening to me, this is happening to me, to then being the cause of it in itself, because you're treating it as if you chose it. Then you also allow, you are saying yes to the present moment. When you say yes to the present moment, the transformation in of itself begins to happen. That's when you start to become emotionally free. I treat everything in my life as if I chose it. And by doing that, I allow the present moment to be, and it then transforms my own consciousness. I genuinely feel that on a scale of 1 to 10, I am at a 7 or an 8 out of 10. And I used to be at a 3 to 5 out of 10. I believe that our natural set point is going to be on this planet, raising over that of this imaginary scale in my mind of 1 to 10. It will eventually be that of much more. And that you have the potential to shift into a higher level of consciousness. And that when you do that, your whole life begins to change in a very powerful way. And one of the first steps to doing that is completing the past to not repeat the past. Getting to the core, and then also letting go of what doesn't serve, and then flooding yourself with what is called source energy. That's exactly what that meditation will do that I shared with you, that's in the top of the description box below. I recommend you listen to it for 21 days to really transform your life. Read the comments to see what I'm talking about. Allow yourself to let go of what no longer serves to become who you are meant to be. So another thing I'll be doing is more live Q&As on Instagram. So if you want to interact with me there, you could do so right here. Plus, I also do twice a day. I post native videos and native content there, so you can always follow me there as well. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification gear next to the subscribe button so that you can see the daily vids that I do. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.